Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 354. Today we're going to talk about Empire Engine. This is a somewhat new release from AEG. It came out at the end of last year. It might have been an Essen release. It's a weird game, so I don't really know how to describe it. It's a micro game, plays 2 to 4 players, and it was initially described to me, or I read somewhere, it was kind of like a micro rondel game. Not really. It's not really like that. So if that's what you heard as well, I can see, that explanation, but that's not really how it works. So it's got a steampunk kind of thing, and I can just kind of explain the mechanics because it's really wonky to sort of pin down. But let's go ahead and take a look at it, and then I'll tell you what I think of it. So like many of the AEG micro games, it comes in this nice cloth bag. Inside of here, you've got some cards and some cubes. And here you've got a round tracker. So we're going to take actions every round, and this is just going to move up and up and up. And you can see here when you're playing a 2 or 4 player game, you're going to stop in the 8th round. If you're playing a 3 player game, you're stopping in a 9th round. And this is because that way everybody gets the equal opportunity to be a start player. Now if you notice here, you can see that if you want to play the long game, you can play 12 rounds. Now I actually would not recommend the long game. I'll talk more about that in a review, but I think the 8 and 9 round end games, no matter the player count, is going to be best. So the first thing players are going to do is take their 2 engine cards. Each player has identical engine cards, and you're going to place them. Now it's very important where you place them and the orientation that you place them. Players will do this one at a time going around the table, and this will make more sense why you do this in just a second. And then you'll flip over and reveal these cards. Now if you look closely in the center, there's an L on the left card and an R on the right card. So you always have to have the left card on the left and the right card on the right. Each of these cards has 4 actions here. So you can see here on this left-hand card, we're doing the produce action. This will allow us to get 2 yellow cubes. And on the right-hand side, we're doing the invent action, which will allow us to actually score a blue cube. So in a game, you're going to be collecting cubes, and you're either going to have them at your disposal for spending, or you're going to move them off to the side in a hidden score pile, and that's what you're going to be scoring. So there's a little bit of a balance between maintaining, keeping the cubes out in front of you for, driving your engine and doing different production and things, versus, sticking them on the side and keeping them and scoring them. Now the other 2 cards the players get are these gear cards. And you can see here's a 2 and a 1, and these cards actually have 2 numbers on them. So on the 1, everybody has a little 0 at the bottom, and on the 2, everybody has a little 3 at the bottom. And these are the amount of steps you're going to rotate your engine cards. I'll explain that. So every turn, starting with the start player, players will take and put 1 card underneath one of their engine cards. And we'll go back around the table and put the second gear card underneath the other engine card. And then everybody will reveal those engine cards, and this is going to show the amount of spaces that you're going to rotate that given engine that it's underneath. Now when you place these cards, you can actually, if you want, at the time of placing the card face down, put a yellow cube there, spend one of your production cubes, and that's going to activate the card and actually use the bottom number instead of the large number. So here we can see we're going to rotate the left-hand gear 1 space and the right-hand gear actually 3 spaces, because remember we put the yellow cube on there. So as you play the game, you're going to kind of learn, okay, so he's got a yellow cube on there. This means he's either going to move it 3 spaces or 0 spaces, because that's the little number. If you don't put a cube on it, he's moving it 1 or 2 spaces. So you can kind of guess as the actions go around the table and then come back around what people may or may not be doing. So what do the actions actually do? So now that we've rotated the cards to the position that they should be, let's take a look at the different actions. Now the game comes with a player aid that shows you sort of the order of operations. Now we're all going to execute simultaneously all of the circle actions. You can see here arm, produce, invent. After that, we're going to do the triangle actions, which is attacking and defending. And then you may also do the little square actions we can see at the bottom, which is where you're going to score your points. Now whenever you have a conflict, you're actually going to use the start player going clockwise to resolve who goes first. So let's take a look at some of the circle or the sort of production actions. Now here you can see you're going to produce 2 yellow cubes. You'll put those in front of you. Here you'll produce 2 red cubes, and these are military cubes. And again, here's the invent. You actually score directly into your hidden score pile 1 of the blue cubes. Now moving on to the attack and defend. Each card has an attack. So you can see on the right hand card, we've got the little red attack. And then on the left-hand card, we've got the red attack. And these are telling you that you need to spend 1 soldier to attack the player to your left or right. Now we also have the defend symbol. And this is only on the right card, but you can defend either side. Now the way that the attacking works is you're only attacking the player to your left or your right. So in a 4-player game, you're never going to attack the person across from you. So if I've spent on the left attack, and you always got to spend the 1 red cube, you're going to attack them. Now if they defended, they're going to be able to take a red cube from the center, from the supply, and actually score that. But if they didn't defend it, then I get to take one of their cubes that they have in their supply, not in their score pile, take that and put it right into my score pile. Now, if they are empty, they don't have any cubes for me to take, then I'm able to take one from the center. Now, even though the defend is only on one of the cards, I can choose to block whoever I want. So if I was attacked from both sides, I can, say, okay, I'm going to block you, score the red cube from the center, and then you can come in and steal from me. But if only one person attacks you, it doesn't matter what side they're attacking you from, you can defend them. Now, moving on to the square actions, you can only do these if you were not successfully attacked. So if you look at this as the salvage action, which means you can take any good you want from the supply and then add it directly to your score pile. The other action you can do is export, and this is taking any yellow cubes that you have available to you, and you move them from your pile into the score pile itself. Now, in the back of the player aids, each player has sort of a different special ability, and I definitely would recommend playing with these once you get kind of used to the game. Okay, so what do I think of the game? Well, let's just get this out of the way. I do not like it as a 2-player game. I like it just fine, though, as a 3- and 4-player game. With 2 players, it's too much like back and forth, and it just doesn't seem to really work out for me. So I like it fine with the 3- and 4-player game. I have seen people be frustrated with the whole putting down one of the gear cards to activate your engines and then going back and forth, because sometimes you don't have a yellow cube to put on anyway, so it doesn't really matter because there's not really much you can deduce other than maybe some table talk, which can be part of the game. But once you kind of get through the game a little bit and get over a little bit of the awkwardness of the engine, and then it works actually really well. Now, I said earlier in the review, I would recommend just doing the 8 or 9 rounds. The 12 rounds, actually, we've seen people, the game run out of cubes when you get out into the 12th round. So it's like people are making change, and there's a weird sort of thing where everybody discards the same number of cubes back into the center, but sometimes that doesn't quite work out. And it does feel to kind of actually go on a little bit too long. You can play an 8 or 9 round game in probably 5 minutes or less than 10 for sure. But that's cool because it is a micro game. It's very much like in that Love Letter vein where you're just playing round after round after round, or I should say game after game after game. So it seems to fit in that when you hold to that 8 or 9 round rule. Now, I will say, we've talked quite a bit about this, and it's a cool micro game, and it really works, and it's different because most micro games seem to have some kind of deduction aspect, and there is that in this game where you're trying to figure out what the other players are doing. But you have sort of an engine thing that you kind of do too, which is kind of interesting. But it feels like this mechanic that's just in the game itself, the whole gear thing, like that would be cool like in a bigger game too. So I don't know. I don't know what you would actually do, but it seems like it'd be a really cool, interesting kind of thing where it's kind of like a weird kind of blind bid, funky, not really rondelle kind of thing. I don't know, but it's really cool. I really like the aspects and how one gear is kind of like your score gear and the other one's kind of your production gear, and you can only produce one over here and the other, so you can't actually chain it, so it makes it very frustrating, but in a good way, trying to get your gears manipulated, and you can kind of try to figure out what people might do from turn to turn, but again, it's over really quickly. So anyway, yeah, I definitely play with the expanded special powers, and only with 3 and 4 players, but yeah, definitely take a look at it. Thanks.